I'm first up. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lori Lockwood with Embellished Event Designs and Decor, also Embellished Flower Boutique. I want to thank Pretty Pink Passionate and Ashley for this opportunity to speak with you all, and applaud you for the cause that you're supporting. Today, I am speaking on event planning. Event planning is a process that will involve various duties for an event that you may be hired for. And your services will be based on how your client has hired you or what needs they have for their event. You could be hired from anywhere from a full-time event planner to a partial wedding planner to a day of coordinator. And the full-time wedding planner, you'll be responsible for managing the entire event from beginning to end. So when your clients first come to you, they may say, I need a venue, I need vendors. You'll be responsible for supplying all of that, as well as their timelines, meeting with their bridal party, if it's a wedding that you're planning for. Partial planning, your client may hire you to do a portion of what the planning process would involve. In the beginning, they will handle the majority of things, such as booking their venue and hiring their vendors. They'll bring you in probably halfway through to manage the rest of the event, oversee the other vendors, create timelines, send out invitations. And then the day of coordinator is where you're brought in anywhere from 2 weeks to maybe a month out from the actual event, to coordinate and oversee the wedding day. Your duties, as I said, could range from locating a venue, finding vendors for the event, budgeting and establishing payment plans for your client with their vendors. It could involve scheduling meetings, scheduling tastings, sending out invitations and managing their RSVPs. It could also involve handling or managing the seating arrangements as far as their guest list is concerned. The other portion that goes hand in hand with event planning would be event decor and design, which is a different ball game than the planning process, where you're just actually working with the clients and planning or managing their event. If you're handling the event decor and the event design, they are two different things. Your event decor is different in that you're responsible for the actual decorating of the event. And this could involve sourcing out or hiring vendors for flowers, backdrops, ceiling drapings, uplighting, tents, table rentals, linen rentals. It could range just in all of those areas for things that you'd have to create for the event decor. Even if you are trained to do all of these duties, I do recommend that you have a team put together, whether it's a team that you work with, that you have hired on a regular basis, that are trained to know your specifics and how you like things done, or if it's a team that you've worked with in the past at other events where you've actually created a network of vendors that you call on a regular basis. All of this is going to help you pull your client's vision together for their event. Event design, on the other hand, is where you are creating a design to achieve an overall theme or an overall atmosphere for an event. This is where you are just designing. You're giving your clients a vision of what you see based on what they tell you that they want and how you envision all of this coming together. You don't actually do the work. You actually hire the vendors to actually install what you have envisioned or what you've presented to them. Another big part of all of the planning, as well as the event design and decor, is budget. And we all know about budget, whether it's the household or vacation budget or whatever the case may be. We all know about budgeting. This is where you're going to have to make sure that you are, whether you're planning or doing design and decor, that you're keeping your clients on track with what they're spending. Every client should have an established amount of money that they are willing to pay or not go beyond. Surprisingly, after doing this for so many years, you meet people or clients and they have no idea what their budget is, and they'll literally tell you, I don't know. The first part is going to be is to sit them down and have them actually establish what amount of money they're not willing to spend. If they can't tell you what they want to spend, get them to tell you how much they don't want to go beyond, and then you can work from there backwards. Budget is going to be, as I said, the first things to establish when you host any type of event. This is going to include the cost of the venue, the cost of food, cost of beverages, cost of decorations, invitations, and possibly transportation and lodging for guests. As well as, and clients always tend to forget this, budgeting for the feeding of your vendors, because you do want to make sure that you're feeding your vendors if they're working for you all day. That is something that I always remind my clients, don't forget to budget an amount of money in your plan to feed your vendors. You should take into consideration what's all going to be involved in budgeting. Tell your clients to be realistic about what they desire and what they can afford. You all heard the saying, champagne tastes with a beer pocketbook. It's real. It is so real. Your clients tend to go on Pinterest or Google and they see pictures that they like and get all googly-eyed over. But then when you actually present it to them and what the cost will actually be, it's not usually within their budget. Some items can be DIY, but everything is not a DIY project. You want to keep track of all the expenses and make sure you leave a cushion. Industry prices increase or fluctuate based on what season it is and what items are available for that season, as well as what items are, or vendors and venues are available for the season. So for example, if your clients are planning on booking or reserving a venue during the holiday, during Christmas time, you may find difficulty in finding a venue that's going to be available during the holiday, but it's also a great time to have them book during that time if you can find a venue, because 9 times out of 10, most venues are already decorated. You'll go to a hotel, you'll see it's decorated for Christmas already, so that's less budget money that your client is going to spend on decorations because that venue is already pretty much decorated for the holiday. So that's one thing to consider when budgeting. Another thing to consider is the day of the week that the venue is booked. Venues, of course, tend to be less booked during off days, which would be a Monday through a Thursday. Weddings usually take place on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, so those are prime days. If you book on an off day, you're usually guaranteed to get a discount and not have to worry about the venue being booked. The other thing is to ask your clients to consider whether or not, if they're considering DIY, if it's actually worth the time that they're going to spend. Number one, you're going to have to Google how to do it. Number two, you're going to have to shop supplies to do it. Where it's just as simple, by the time you finish all the expense and the time, to actually hire somebody to do that for you. If you are considering event planning as a business and not just a hobby, and I know most people start out with this as a hobby, doing family functions, family cookout days and things like that, if you're actually considering this as a business and not just a hobby, I highly recommend that you work with somebody who has been doing this for some time, whether you're volunteering your time or working underneath of them to help them out at specific events that they may have planned throughout the year. The other thing I would recommend, if you can't find somebody to work underneath of, is to actually sign up and take some training courses. There's a lot to learn, even though you may be skilled at pulling together family functions, but there are ins and outs that go on behind the scenes, vendors as well as venues that many people don't know about until you actually get into the business. And it will show if you're not trained to do these things. Courses for this type of thing, event design, event decor, they can be found, and event planning, I'm sorry, they can be found online. You can find them at some community colleges, and there are actual event design, decor, and planning companies that go around the world teaching classes. You can Google and find out if there's a class going on, and you can turn it into a actual vacation trip where you're actually going to learn over various days, be a week, and actually take a vacation at the same time. This is, I have to tell you, a high stress position. The way I've managed and the way that most people who tend to be able to multitask manage is to make sure that you're very organized. You have to remember that you're not just managing the clients that have hired you, you're managing all of their guests as well as the events that take place during the planning process and the day of the event, as well as the vendors that are hired for the event and the actual flow of the event. So this all falls on your shoulders. And one thing that I don't like to do is day of planning, where your clients have pretty much done all the work and you're coming in last minute to oversee everything, because if their planning has not gone well, they're going to look at you, the planner, as the one who has failed in this process. So I don't usually take on day of coordination. It's, something that if I do, it's something that I have to make sure has been very well planned, very well organized. You do find some clients who are like, straight shooters with everything. Everything is like, that A-type personality. They got it all down pat. Everything is detailed. And then you have some that just don't have a clue. So if you do decide to take a day of coordination or a day of planning, make sure that you've done your homework and investigated all that they've planned and that everything is what it should be. As I said, this is a high stress position. So you want to make sure that you're very detailed in what you do as far as planning is concerned. You need to be a detail-oriented person. You need to be a multitasker as well. One thing or a couple things that I like to do is to not just keep a calendar, but make sure you have checklists and that you have reminders with alarms set for those checklists so that you can stay on top of things. You also want to make sure that you have a team, a dependable team that can assist you throughout the planning process, where you can delegate duties to them and lift some of that burden off of you, so to speak, several mini me's. You want to always plan for worst case scenario, even though it may not happen. Always plan for worst case scenario. Have a plan A, B, C, D, E, just to make sure that you're always covered. Make sure you have a list of emergency vendors, because it has happened where vendors don't show up and you're responsible then for calling in a last minute DJ or and you have to have an emergency cake brought in. So always make sure you have a list of backup vendors. You want to communicate the timeline with all your performers in your event, and I call them performers because you are actually putting on a production. So this would include your vendors, your bridal party if it's a wedding, your guests, your venues, and make sure you have a point of contact for every vendor that you hire. You may speak with someone when you initially hire a vendor, but that may not be the person that you're dealing with the day of the event. So you want to make sure you know who your contact person is for that day and that you have their phone number so that you can get in touch with them. Because it could be that the place that you've hired is closed during the week, but they have that person working outside of their actual location. And if you call the actual company, you're not going to reach the person that you need to speak with that day. So you want to make sure you have all contact information. Make sure you have a point of contact at the venue as well as church if this is a ceremony that's taking place at a church. And you want to make sure that you have the contact info for everybody involved. And again, this includes your wedding party. And that is all I have. If there are any questions.
I think you cut out there.
I cut off.
That last part.
Well, I just said make sure you have contact info for everybody that's involved in the event. So this would include your bridal party, as your, people, vendors and venues that are involved.
Thank you. Did anybody have any questions for Lori? All right, well, I'll leave the chat open. If anybody has any questions, you guys can just drop them in the chat. For any of our panelists speaking today, you guys can just drop them in the chat and we'll take a look at them for you. All right, well, I'm gonna just touch briefly on myself before my mom speaks. I'm Ashley. I'm sure all of you know my name, but I'm Ashley, and I created Pretty Pink Passionate around the time I was in college. It first was a blog that I was just writing how my college experience was, speaking on traveling, health, food, nutrition, fitness, anything you can think of, I was kind of talking about. And then it started from my blog to a podcast that I have, which is Pretty Pink Passionate, and it's Looked Through the Eyes of Ashley. And then I started my YouTube channel. So all of those kind of fall under the umbrella of Pretty Pink Passionate, and just explaining my love for everything that I do, whether it be fitness, dance, helping others, you name it, it's all gonna fall under that umbrella. And the reason I wanted to do this was not only just because this month is celebrating women's history and just celebrating women in general, but I just wanted to bring awareness to people that have creative businesses or, are big in the health field, big in event planning, whatever their role is in life. I felt like it was good to bring them to, the forefront. A lot of women, we have a lot that we do, and it's not really, put on display. We like to sometimes, stay in the background, but I wanted today to have you guys be put, push you guys in front and share everything that you guys do, because you guys have all inspired me in some way and came into my life. So I wanted to do this to give back to everybody that has done something for me. So that is definitely why I wanted to do this, and a little bit about me. So now I'm gonna pass it over to my mom.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Velva Rainey, and I am a nurse by trade. Also, in addition to being a nurse, I'm the Director of Health Services at Lincoln University. And I am also a studier, or should I say a avid student of the Word. And I have my master's as well as my doctorate in theology. I believe those 2 degrees have helped me immensely in my nursing career, because with the study of God and anthropology, his people, and all those other ologies, it helps me to understand how people deal with their health and who they are, as well as how they heal, how they listen to you with their healing. Their belief system plays a large part of how they're going to be healed, as well as how much they're going to invest in their health and their care. So I wanted to just touch a little bit for a minute there while I have the microphone. And if it were a real microphone, you wouldn't be able to get it away from me because I'm also a singer. So yeah, I'd be hogging that right now. But anyway, I love having fun, and I just believe that it is important for us to be mindful of laughter in our lives. That is also a very, very big thing that will help to heal and soothe the soul and get us in a place of openness to being able to receive our healing if our hearts are lightened. So I believe that laughter is really important. It's important for people undergoing stress. And we do know how stress tends to play a part and a role in putting a damper on our health. We get ulcers from stress. People get heart attacks from stress. People have strokes from stress. And it's not just because of our blood pressure going up. It's a lot of times stress. So if we find a time and a place where you can not only just relax, but also be enlightened, and whether that enlightenment comes from going to listening to someone who's telling jokes that makes you happy, or being able to be enlightened through the Word of God and reading that, wherever you find that enlightenment, I encourage you to do that and to find that peace that will allow your body to heal and rejuvenate. A lot of times we don't rest. We don't give ourselves the opportunity to rest. And definitely, a lot of people have said, well, I've done nothing but rest in this pandemic, but not so. A lot of people are really not resting. Even though we may be home, we're not resting. So enable yourself to give your body that time to rest and rejuvenate. Also keeping in mind those things that are important to you with regards to your health, like hydration. That's very important. Specifically with the pandemic, I don't think we are eating the same way that we should. We're not eating healthy. We're not drinking enough fluids. All of those things become important. And then when you're also thinking about the fact that we're just starting to get some really good sunshine here, a lot of people have gone into states of depression because of being enclosed in the house, secluded. Loneliness has set in. So our mental state has not been 100% as well. We need to get out, get some air, get some sunlight. I do know that in some states, specifically Washington State and those folks in Seattle and Portland, we get a lot of rain and a lot of cloudy, foggy weather when they work. It's important for them to have iridescent lights in their offices, so those translucent lights can give off of the rays that we need to help us. And I remember hearing a joke one time about a woman who was being accused of killing her husband. And she says, I couldn't possibly have done it, Your Honor, because I have too many endorphins in my body. I'm too happy. People who are happy just don't murder people. So, so you got to think, there's a little bit of truth to that. I don't know what he might have done to make you think you should have done that. But anyway, endorphins do make you happy. So, keep in mind that we need that sunshine. You need that laughter. You need fluids. You need to have the right kind of foods going into your body. And also listen to your body as well when it's telling you that it needs to rest, when it's telling you that you need to take a moment to refuel yourself. Those things become very important. And in healthcare, we don't allow people to hear that enough. And whatever your faith base is, whatever that is, lean on that. Lean on that and use that, because without having a basis and a foundation for who created you, who your creator is, knowing who it is that you should go to ask for the help that you need, that is sincerely a large part of how people get over the things that they are into, whether it is a state of depression, whether it is having respiratory issues, whether it is having GI issues. Have that center for yourself where you can be able to be fueled by your faith. So I'm a preacher, but I ain't gonna preach to you right now, but refuel yourselves. Amen. Amen. All right. And I'm going to say my second thing that I do like to do other than sing and be a mother and a daughter and a sister and a friend to others, and as well as a nurse, is I love to write. I am also a writer at heart. My program assistant, my secretary at work, tells me a lot of times I love words. He says, "You're very wordy, Miss Rainey." I said, "You know what? You are so right." Because I do love the King's English. I really do. And then she says, "You could have written that sentence a little shorter, but you put so many words in it." And I said, "Because I love those words. Those words are so important." So I do know that. And because of that, I've just sent my 4th book to the publisher. And I'm so excited. I'm so looking forward to it coming back to me in its bound form. But I do want to share with you, those of you who have ideas and are writers, and my husband's also a writer. He's just published his 4th book. And we love speaking to people based on what it is that God imparts to us and allows us to know that it's needful that we share. That we share this with others. I just wanted to give you some insight, because I don't know if there's someone else who may have been thinking or have heard someone say to them also, "You know what, girl, you've just done so much and you've lived such a wonderful life. You ought to write a book." How many people have ever said that to you? And if that were true, then you always think to yourself, me? I couldn't possibly. What would I have to say? Exactly what it is that comes out of you is what you have to say. And that might be the very thing that could help somebody else. You never know what other woman, what other sister, what other friend, what other male might need to read from your perspective to live the life through your lens and to see what it is that you have to give and what you have to impart. So I just wanted to share a little bit about how writing sometimes starts for us. Writing sometimes starts with an inkling and an urging within your belly. It's deep within you that you just cannot get away from. It's one of those things that it's constantly on your mind. It's something that's trying to come out. If you have a topic or a thought process that you just cannot get to leave you alone, typically it's something that you need to birth. And through that birthing process, a lot of times it's not a child, a lot of times it's a book. So push for the books. Yes. So many less stress marks. So many less stress marks. But I won't go for that one. But definitely, if you are a writer, a lot of people like to use their laptops to write and that sort of a thing. Some people used to record it and have other people type and write for them. I'm a proponent of my own pen. So with that said, I write. This is actually my last book, bound in my binder, and I write. And I mean, literally page after page, as it flows, you write. You continue to write. And as the writing continues, the writing becomes chapters. And thoughts move from chapters to whole new flowing ideas for the next book to come out. So keep something handy where you can constantly write. And then after the written word becomes the type word, this is the first draft before it went to the publisher. This is the first draft, and then it looks like a bunch of pages of nothingness, but it actually is. It's your book. It's your book not bound, but it's the book that has to be read and drafted and reread and corrected and looked at for editorial issues, for grammatical problems in it, and reread for flow and thought and all of those kinds of things. But you have to trust the people that you're allowing to read your work, because you're trusting them with your child. It's actually your baby, because you're giving birth to something that you're putting out into the world, and you want to trust the people's hands that are going to touch it. You want to trust the hearts that you're going to give to assist you in getting it out. So be careful with those kinds of things too, because sometimes somebody else might have the same idea you do. They just might write faster than you. So you do have to trust the people that you're sharing your information with, that you know that it's going to stay yours until you can actually copyright it and have it patented and ready to be shared with others. I'm going to begin to close out, but I do want to just say that I think that not close out, but just close my part. My husband's talking in the background. You know how men's is. I be trying to get on me how I'm speaking. Stop. But I'm just so grateful to be a part of all of this, and I'm really kind of in awe of my daughter. I'm in awe of what she's doing with her business with Pretty Pink Passionate. And I am so grateful, and just want to tell you also, as Lori already said, we are grateful to you for sharing this platform with us, because just as you see, there's so many women that you can call on to speak. I'm honored that you chose me to be one of them. So thank you very much. And see, I'm under my time limit. Thank you.
Do you want to share with all of us the name, the title of your book?
Yes, it's coming soon. It's called A Parent's Pain. Yes, it's deep. It's deep. And as my son said, he helped me to read it also. He says, Mom, this is highly personal. I'm like, okay, but that's the way it came. And sometimes you do have to trust the process. And if it seems like it's highly personal, it's going to touch somebody else. It's going to hit somebody else right where they needed it. They need it to be real. They need it to be raw. And they need to know that there are other people out there that may be feeling the same pain that you went through. And there is a way to get through. That's the whole thing. It's like, it might be the title, but there's a way to get through, and there is a through on the other side. And there's a great thing that comes from going through that pain.
Yes. And I've read some of it, and it's probably one of my favorite books that you've written. And we have a question actually in the chat. Can you drop the name of all your books, please?
Oh, the name of all my books. Okay. Yes. The first book was called, it was Helpful Hints for the Christian Wife. And that was my very first book. And you'll be able to look at the lifespan of my ministry legacy too, because my names of my authorship change on each one of the books. I've noticed that each one of them has a different title of who I was at the time. And then my other two books are Seeking Him and Finding Him. And that was another book that had to be difficult to birth, but it was necessary, because many people may not know this, but even those who are well into their ministry walk, or well into their foundation of who their God is and who their creator is and their faith, we still need to seek him. And sometimes if we feel lost, we have to even find him, because we too get lost sometimes. And it's not always about, and I know a lot of people who know me probably think, she talking about seeking a man. I ain't talking about seeking no man this time. No, because I got my man. I done saw him and found him. Yeah, that ain't about me. This book not about that one. Yeah, but sometimes, young ladies might think, Miss Rainey gonna talk about finding a man again, y'all. But no, I'm not this time. This time was about finding God, and it was seeking him and finding him, because even I, sometimes felt like I had lost my footing and lost myself and lost where I was and where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing for him. So I had to re-find him. And that process was a little hard, but I got through it, and there it is. I built it out and I regurgitated it to you. And hopefully if anybody else feels lost, they can find him too. And my third book was, what was the title of the third book? Yeah, you said don't ask you. Okay, so it was Seeking Him and Finding Him. And the third one was, this is like a test. Yeah, that one. Thank you, honey. It was The Life Nobody Wants, A Life Without Love. And that comes when you actually know what it is that you are supposed to have, and the love that you're supposed to be feeling and experiencing and have. That's the love you really want, not necessarily the love from somebody who, sings a "He Done Me Wrong" song. No, it's know the type of relationship that you really should be in that relationship. Know that there's a love that's above all other loves, and it's the love of Christ. And that's why I said it's the love that we all don't want to live without, and that is the love of God in our lives. So there you go.
Thanks, Mom. All right, next up.
Well, I am so honored to be right after you, Miss Rainey, because honestly, talk about just I'm going to just call it a few years ahead of me, but absolutely passion-driven life. Like, that is what I'm going to kind of speak on right now. And I'm piggybacking exactly in a few years from now. That's exactly where I want to be. Educated, but living in your authentic purpose and identifying who you are. And that's what I wanted to touch on today. So I'm Julienne Piche. I'm in Little, Rhode Island, and I'm so honored to be here. I absolutely adore Ashley, and I'm so proud of her growth that I've seen over the last, oh gosh, it's been a long time now, 5, 6, 7 years that we've been connected. So for me, I'm going to kind of take you back a little bit. I am a mom of 2 beautiful little girls, a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. I am a wife of a wonderful man, supportive man, and also serial entrepreneur himself. And I've been in the medical world for over 10 years. I originally went to school for clinical. I went into radiology, and I worked in the hospital after my after schooling for about 1.5 years. And then very early on in my career, I got the opportunity to kind of switch gears and pivot and go into medical device sales. And so that was really the birth of just kind of identifying my strengths that I didn't even know I had, but also who I was becoming and what I wanted to leave behind in that piece as well. And so I'm gonna give you cliff notes because I could be here forever, but about 2 years ago, after my second little one, being in corporate America, after 6 years, kind of started being like this, right? For my personal life and my professional life. I felt like I was at a plateau. I felt like I was being pushed down instead of empowered. And I felt like I wasn't being a present mom. I felt like I was choosing my job, choosing somebody else's dreams over my own. And if you asked, and I knew, I sat in it and I identified who I was. And, if I'm 33 now, and, if you took me back to my 20-year-old self, my goal was to be a really amazing mom, a really amazing wife, right? I'm very, very driven. I'm very goal-oriented. I want to be successful. I want to be financially stable. I want to make a lot of money, right? And all those things are okay and amazing, but I was getting away from the core of who I wanted to be, which is in family and in faith and as a wife, because somebody else's dreams was pulling me, right? And they weren't giving me the option anymore because it was my job over my family, or I didn't have a job, right? So back about 2 years ago, I was searching to really pivot in my career. And what I want to empower all of you to really kind of think about and to declare is your capability. You are capable of so much. And when you know you're capable, you can pivot. You're not stuck. And so 2 years ago, I decided to pivot. I decided that I was capable there in corporate America. And the only reason why I was capable there was because of myself, not because of anybody there, right? I had great mentorship, don't get me wrong, and some really amazing people that I worked with and I grew through, but it was because of myself that I got where I was after 6 years. And so I was seeking other options, and I had the chance, and I know that Mrs. Rainey will 100% agree with me, but there is never any conversation that happens by accident. When you put it out there, he answers, but you got to listen, right? No conversation is ever by accident. And in this season of my life, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, my good friend, Samantha, she is a doctor, holistic practitioner in California. I've known her through the years. And she came to me and said, hey, I have an opportunity for you to kind of merge your 2 worlds. I'm helping a global company in the holistic health space launch a patented product. I think this would be a really, really great opportunity for you. And that aside, that job or that opportunity, career shift aside, it was the ability for me to pivot and really bring my 2 worlds together. My education, my background, my drive to want so much in this world and provide and freedoms of financial freedoms and all of the things. But it was my ability to be on my own, as my own boss, as a private contractor. It was the ability for me to launch my own business in Rhode Island and on the East Coast and create my day, my work day around my children, not having to ask any longer for things that I needed, but it was now up to me. So here I am after the last 19 months of identifying my capabilities and my abilities and deciding. Here I am as a business strategist and also a holistic health coach. I help women and men, but primarily women because that's what I am and that's what I attract, right? On really diving into who they are, following their passions, learning how to excel and diversify in their business. And majority of it is around the holistic health space because that's also something that I'm super, super passionate about. So if I can give you 3 tips on, what I do, whether we're talking wellness and wellness goals and nutrition goals, or whether we're talking business and life goals or financial goals, these are the 3 tips that I live by. Number 1 is identifying where you're at. Where are you in this journey? Because it's the journey and it's okay. Wherever you are, you could be way down here, right? Rock bottom, or you could be in the middle. Where are you? Because when you get really honest with yourself, and another, just so perfect, piggybacking off of the previous, conversation, is take a notebook and pen. Where are you? Get so honest with yourself, because when you get it out of here and on paper, even if after sometimes you look at it and you're like, what did I even write? That's okay. That's what happens. But you get really honest with yourself so that now we can identify the steps on where we want to go. Number 2 is knowing why. Why, that emotional attachment to the why. And I'm sure you've all heard this before. What's your why, right? And not just surface, oh, what is your why, right? It's all fluffy. No, what is your why? What your why should make you cry. And my why made me cry every time I asked my boss to leave a half an hour early because I had to take my daughter to a doctor's appointment and they said no, or they gave me a hard time. I would cry, or I had to travel and was away from my children overnight, and I would be crying in the hotel room. That is my why of why I do this, why I believe in my own capabilities. So when you attach the why you're doing something, even for wellness goals, why are you doing it? And it's not just about some fad diet or some oh, I want to get in a bikini. Listen, I'm pretty sure I can speak for all of us. The days of us just wanting to look good on the beach, those are long gone, right? It's about energy. It's about just feeling good. It's about creating longevity so that we can run around with grandkids, right? So really emotionally attaching yourself to your wellness goal or your business or financial goal, feeling in the hamster wheel, feeling stuck, attaching your emotions to it. Because when you have your emotions to the goal, it will define your actions. All of a sudden, organically, and you're not even going to have to think about this, organically, everything that you do is going towards that goal. Laser focused. And number 3 is decide. When you decide, and it's scary sometimes, but you must decide. And as soon as you decide, you draw the line in the sand. You decide, and then you know what you do next? you seek mentorship. You seek somebody like Mrs. Rainey that has been there. That's only like, she's only like, you know, maybe 10 years ahead of me, right? But you seek somebody that either has what you want. And I don't just mean, you know, the nice fancy car. I'm talking about the faith, the marriage, the business, the motivation, the freedom that has what you want, or whether it's the wellness goal, right? And you lean on them. Because as soon as you decide, what happens in human nature is when we don't know which way to go, or we don't have support, or we're trying to do it all on our own and we don't have the accountability, that's when we get discouraged, or we get upset, or we give up. So having the accountability, having the support, and having the mentorship is going to give you the path. And as long as you stay committed to those emotions, I promise you, and you find a really great mentor or support system, you're going to keep going. Remember, wellness or business goals, the only thing between you and where you want to be are the steps that you have not taken yet. And those steps, that's it. You can just start. So I am so blessed to be here with all of you, and I am going to kick it over to Shanette.